Alright folks, welcome back to the GEST July Grand Final between Mineski and mith.trust. This will be Game 3. The series now equalized at 1-all, 1 apiece for both teams. Mineski in the first game with a very, very dominant performance on Weaver, who we will actually see reprised. We'll talk about that in a second. And then mith.trust with an equally dominant, if not more, performance in the second game. I have no idea who's going to take this series. Both teams have at times looked unstoppable. I am, of course, Vikrmond, broadcasting for Beyond the Summit 2. My co-caster today is Basekip. How are you doing, my friend?
Yeah, doing pretty well. I think I should very quickly clear up the questions that are happening in chat. I think the score on the overlay might have been a little bit weird going into this game. So we are 1-1, guys, heading into Game 3, just for anybody who's confused. But yeah, great to be here.
I think the thing with the overlay is that the new overlay is now like more fancy, so it's like a semicircle, but it's blocked off by the Dota TV thing.
Yeah, it is. So I don't know what. Just to clarify in chat, maybe on your overlays or something like that. I'm not 100%.
Oh, maybe that's my fault. Yeah, could be.
Who knows? But anyway, so yeah, drafts happened. I was already sitting here thinking like, well, Mineski, you haven't banned Weaver. Are you just going to take it? And they did. Interestingly enough, they managed to also snag OD and immediately ban Razors. So mith.trust, they have to try and find a response to that on the middle lane, and they can't even. I mean, so right now there's no hope of mith.trust running an aggressive tri-lane at all. Mineski's solos are just ludicrously strong. They need to put ganking pressure on the OD. So mith.trust are kind of stuck running a defensive tri-lane. And that's more or less fixed as well, because Nyx Assassin on an aggressive tri-lane is okay, but not great. He would love to just be running pulls and, getting some farm. But sure. So let's see what mith.trust can do. I feel like what they need to focus on right now is, okay, Darkseer can get reasonable farm. We need a good ganking pair of supports to be able to go and deal with the OD perhaps on mid. I still wouldn't be too surprised to see the Dragon Knight again. He does suffer quite a bit against the OD, but at least having a stun there ready at level 6 to be able to set up the ganks on the OD is always nice to have. And mith.trust can also ban out a bunch of supports because Mineski have only taken their solos so far. But I don't feel that they can take advantage of that and run an aggressive tri-lane, because Weaver and OD as solos will just be way too difficult to deal with. And they might even have to consider banning Tree here.
Ooh, that would be a rarity these days. He sort of became extremely popular and then almost completely vanished. One thing I have a question about, you had said in the first game, Basekip, that you had some critiques of Nyx Assassin, especially valued so highly. Do you want to... I mean, they did secure him second here, so do you want to drill down into that a little bit?
I mean, I feel that the same kind of criticisms that you levy against a Sand King are kind of relevant. He's a very level-dependent support. He's not the same as, say, Rubik or Shadow Demon or Lina or a lot of our tri-lane versus tri-lane heroes, where they get a lot stronger every single time they pick up a level. Meanwhile, Nyx Assassin is like mana burn, can feel a little bit inconsequential at level 1 now, and Spiked Carapace is okay, but not that great. So he's really just relying on Impale for the tri-lane versus tri-lane, and I don't know if Impale, a great spell that it is enough to carry him through, especially given that he is a melee hero who really needs arcane boots. I think it's maybe just a little bit too much. So that would be my criticism on the whole of Nyx Assassin. He's still definitely very strong. Vendetta is still an amazing ability, and having initiation and pick off in your supports are great, but it does come at a cost, and I feel like he does push you towards running a defensive tri-lane. But that's just my opinion. I'm sure people would disagree.
Yeah, I mean, it's fairly rare, if we ever saw Nyx Assassin on the aggressive tri-lane in the era of mana burn being even stronger than it currently is. It was pretty rare. More often he is used for that safe lane to try to pick up some levels. So yeah, mith.trust definitely with less variability in how they can run their lanes, whereas Mineski, the Weaver and Outworld Devourer really can go anywhere. Of course, the Weaver can solo, the Weaver can tri-lane, the OD can solo, the OD can technically tri-lane, although the only teams that do it, I think, are Orange and Virtus Pro. But mith.trust with a Windrunner here. This does open up their lanes a bit. I think maybe they felt the same sort of thing you did, which is that they were losing a bit of flexibility. Windrunner, I feel like almost her primary strength as a hero, at least from the drafting perspective, is just how flexible she is.
Yeah, I don't know what mith.trust are planning here. It might be a slightly greedier laning setup. So maybe the Windrunner is off-laning, Darkseer is in the jungle, Nyx Assassin is, roaming a little bit. Hopefully he'll go mid and throw some early mana burns on OD. I mean, we saw that as a tactic to try and deal with OD as he was sort of becoming more popular, and it's still definitely very relevant now. you know, it makes OD a little bit more reliant on RNG to try and get those Essence War procs and, you know, keep doing what he's doing in the lane. But I mean, mith.trust Windrunner, I wouldn't pick her as a great hero against either Weaver or OD, and that was all the information that mith.trust had going into that pick. So we'll see how it ends up working out for them, because as an offlane hero, she can't really fight 1v1 against the Weaver. And I mean, Mineski, their tri-lane shouldn't be too bad either. There's still plenty of good supports left in the pool,
they could run
as
her,
you can see.
They could run her as a tri-lane farmer, I suppose.
But can they run an aggressive tri-lane is the question.
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
It's going to be difficult. The nice thing about the Windrunner is, although her laning against Weaver and OD, I definitely agree, is nothing special. As she levels up that Shackle Shot, those can be a pretty huge deal against both of those heroes.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially the Weaver. He's going to be, first of all, almost not forced into the Lincolns, but definitely he'll have to pick up either Lincolns or BKB relatively early in his item development. Because one unlucky Shackle that latches for, you know, the full duration at rank 4, and your Weaver is guaranteed dead before he ever gets a chance to time-lapse. And OD is somewhat similar. Even with the mechanism regime, he's still a hero that, despite his great base armor, can definitely be brought down in the course of a Shackle Shot. So maybe it's just layering on the CC, because they now have about as much disable as you can pack into one team, with the Nyx Assassin, the Lion, and the Windrunner.
What I actually want to see them do is pick up Mana Drain and Mana Burn at level 1 and walk to the OD's lane and burn all of his mana right at level 1 and then leave him alone. And just see how he copes. I mean, mith.trust, I don't think they're looking for an aggressive tri-lane anymore. Lion is also very level dependent. I think the same kind of criticisms that I levy against Nyx Assassin are relevant there. Mineski could actually be the ones to look for an aggressive tri-lane here. They could safe lane the Weaver. They've got the beginnings of an okay aggressive tri, and I mean, be it Juggernaut, be it Sven, be it whatever it'll be for the aggressive tri, it could still be a great option for Mineski.
They could also just run a Sand King Crystal Maiden and another support if they wanted. Like, I don't know, something with a long distance slow, like Veno.
Sand King farmed, a farmed Sand King is not a bad thing to have at any, by any stretch of the imagination. So yeah, I don't think that would be too bad for Mineski either. But they could even run the Weaver in the tri lane, and I mean that looks like mith.trust are kind of anticipating with banning out the Lone Druid. Yeah.
I think mith.trust think that it's probably an aggressive tri Crystal Maiden Sand King Weaver, and yeah, that's an option. The only other issue is your effective disable range is quite short. Sand King Crystal Maiden both fairly slow, and of course Sand King's lead-in stun is not going to work as a lead-in unless he gets like amazing positioning or the other team makes a fairly serious blunder. So your Weaver can get to a fight, but it's hard to keep anybody in place for the Weaver to kill them. Especially with the barrage of stuns that's going to be laid down by mith.trust. I can't overstate just how many stuns they have when you consider the fact that Darkseer Vacuum is basically an AoE stun as well. Naga Siren added on. This is a very non-traditional lineup for mith.trust. It's shaping up into something very interesting.
Yeah, they've got very little late game, I would say. I mean, Naga Siren is a reasonable carry, but her illusions aren't going to be that threatening against OD. I mean, we saw people trying to pick OD against PL at the height of his popularity. That didn't really work, but against Naga Siren, the Arcane Orb should be fine for the most part for clearing out her illusions. And mith.trust, it's weird because I feel like the Naga Siren is going to be maybe the primary farmer in a tri-lane, but then they've got a double melee tri-lane with 3 extremely level-dependent heroes. And Mineski, great levelers on their side. Lion gets more out of his levels as well, but Crystal Maiden... Well, I guess I complained about Sand King, being an odd-leveled support. 1, 3, 5, 7 is pretty much his only relevance. But Mineski, they've got a great tri-core lineup. I think they've got the late game almost locked up as well here. So, I don't know. mith.trust have to kind of be early and aggressive, but if they don't get the levels on the Nyx Assassin and the Lion, then I think things are going to look very difficult for them.
I do definitely think that the levels on Nyx and Lion are going to be tremendously important. Especially if Nyx gets a... Wow, they swapped to Abba Nyx. Could this be Nyx against OD in the mid?
If they I think it is,
If they get that gimmick Lion mana drain, that could actually be a big deal. If he can't Astral Imprison you, he can't get that huge base damage advantage. Well, we'll have to see. Regardless, Abba, it looks like, is also packing the Alpha Predator skin for Nyx, so we're going to keep on seeing that. He's going up in the mid on this Nyx Assassin. TNK on the offlane as Darkseer, and then that leaves a tri-lane composed of SD on the support Windrunner, Lakel's on a farming Naga Siren, and R5 on the support Lion.
Yeah, and meanwhile on Mineski, who are coming up very aggressively, I don't think we'll see anything happen, but just running over everything very quickly. We've got Jesse Vash on the Weaver, we've got Oa on the Crystal Maiden, we've got Jove Insanity playing the Dragon Knight, we've got RTR, otherwise known as G or Geo, on the Sand King, and that is going to leave Stand-In, otherwise known as J, on the OD. And yeah, it looks like nothing's going to end up happening at level 1, but Mineski already scouting things out, trying to get a lock on their lanes. And interesting to see who is going to be where, at least in my mind. They've got, Dragon Knight not always well, it looks like he's going to be mid. He's sometimes in the tri lane. Some teams do it, but looks like things not too far outside of your expectations.
No,
here.
And we are going to get a clash. Here's Lakel's, the Burrow Strike coming through him already. Naga Siren taking a tremendous amount of damage, but an excellent, I can't tell if it was Impale or Burrow Strike because they have two heroes that do the same thing. And mith.trust just seeking to retreat on out of this. There's the healing salve up from Lakel's. He'll probably live through this. Kind of a anticlimax there, neither team really having the tools to actually outright kill the other. Lakel's maybe getting the closest to dying, so Mineski forced out a healing salve, but that's about it.
Yeah, it was an Earth Spike. Abba was actually getting a way better block mid, so he was nowhere near that fight. And
R5, they get the Frostbite off. Here comes Burrow Strike, but an excellent Earth Spike coming out from Lion, once again defensively. And this is the thing, they really do have every stun in the game and then some on this team.
Yeah, and R5, I think, so far for this game, average number of heroes hit with each Earth Spike is 2. So,
I wish we had a stats pop up for that.
Yeah, I should have done it, shouldn't I? Oh well.
You could have, yeah. I can't because it would be a dead giveaway.
So, yeah, mith.trust, I mean, things off to an okay start. Mid lane, Nyx Assassin versus the DK. Should be okay for the Nyx Assassin. Dragon Knight, I think, will get the better of the lane in the end. Meanwhile, bot, it's OD against Darkseer. Darkseer just... The nice thing about being on the bottom lane is he has a lot of space to cut creeps. A lot of the situation for this 1v1 matchup is that OD will walk along, he'll imprison you, and then the creeps just lose interest and they'll come back to the tower, and that's kind of it for creep cutting. But it's easier on the Radiant lane than it is on the Dire, because where you end up skipping creeps is a little bit further away from the tier 1. So OD's going to be pinned under the tower, and Darkseer is still just getting his farm up.
I totally agree, and it's also very important for Darkseer here to stay as far away as possible from OD, simply so that he can keep the mana up until the point at which he gets Soul Ring. It's just critically important for him to have enough mana to continually be able to Ion Shell, which is what makes the creep skipping possible. And the fact is, as you mentioned, the Radiant Jungle does give you a lot of space to choose where you take that engagement and be able to stay far enough away from the OD that you don't run the risk of getting Astral imprisoned. So these are definitely some of the better lanes that I feel mith.trust could have asked for. But R5, is he in trouble? He's trying to get... he does not miss that last hit, and he does manage to de-ward successfully. And there's quite a bit of a war developing for this warding space in this tri-lane. Just both teams really, really wanting that extra edge and vision. And I do feel like mith.trust, considering the fact that Mineski's lanes were so dangerous, they almost ended up with the best configuration they could have hoped for.
Yeah, and I'm interested that Mineski invests so much time to try and deal with this ward, because, I mean, the Rune Vision is okay, but both of these mids can just Bottle Crow and sort of be okay with it. And that's 2.5 minutes that they haven't been, trying to body block the pole camp. They've let Windrunner get level 3. Lion, granted, is still level 1, but I feel like an early start that they, maybe they shouldn't have given away to mith.trust. Yes, Sand King's kind of weak at level 1 as far as initiation is concerned, but now you've got a reasonably high level Windrunner to deal with, and yeah, looks like mith.trust have a little bit more space than I was expecting on this lane. I think in a large part due to just what was happening with R5 over on the ward spot.
Yeah. He has managed to basically pay in levels for wasting a lot of Mineski's time. So, of course, this Lion is a whopping level 1, and that is not great. I mean, you've traded this for a few Windrunner levels, which is fantastic, but sooner or later, R5 is going to need some experience. Lakel's actually Frostbitten, taking quite a bit of damage. An excellent Shackle Shot from SD, so he does have all 3 tools at his disposal: level 1 Power Shot, level 1 Shackle Shot, level 1 Windrunner, and that's pretty important. But they're going to need Lion to graduate from ranged creep status at some point.
Yeah, Lion is going to need to soak up some experience somewhere, so hopefully he'll be able to get that going on. mith.trust, I feel like the same problem is still relevant, though. Even if Mineski don't necessarily get too many kills, they're still kind of running the Tricore. So, I mean, Abba needs to get his levels on mid and then actually go and do something with them, because I think Joven's going to be happy to just sit here, get a bunch of creeps. He's actually doubling the Nyx Assassin's creep score right now, more than double. Take the tower, and that's sort of his game plan.
Yeah.
So Mineski, I feel like even the onus isn't on them to get things done. I don't know if mith.trust can sit back and farm on the Naga Siren and say, look, okay, Naga Siren is our late game plan.
Sure.
We'll be fine with that. So yeah, even if the early game is going okay, they still need to eventually turn things around and get themselves on the front foot.
Yeah, and TNK is also losing control of this lane a little bit. The creep wave has moved. He got Astral imprisoned a few times, lost a bit of mana, and now Soul Ring isn't quite enough to just give him control of this lane. It's starting to move back in Jay's favor. And yes, the third Astral imprisonment comes through, so Jay biding his time, but really patiently earning not an advantage in this lane just yet, but at least not losing any ground. And meanwhile, Lakel's in the top, 23 last hits, so he's doing pretty well for himself, certainly better than Jesse Vosh is doing on Weaver. But yeah, Baseskip, as you pointed out, it's a tri-core lineup. They're happy if two lanes go well, and so far, one lane is going extremely well. Oh, actually, it's Spike Carapace, but Abba doesn't have enough to follow up with. No Vengeance. Ooh, they get the first blood, actually in the bottom. Meanwhile, a huge fight developing in the top. Already a kill on Lion. Jesse Vosh, does he want more? SD is quite low. He's still got a bug on him. The bug is off. Nice. No. The last hit from Weaver is going to be enough to pick him off. Lakel's, meanwhile, trying to make something happen. RTR with a defensive Burrow Strike, just pulling him back. Will Jesse Vosh seek to get more? Crystal Nova comes through from Oa. He's got Frostbite as well. There it is. Jesse Vosh with a Geminate. He's getting quite low, though. One more hit will do it. They just need to pick off Lakel's. Lakel's manages to make it back to the tower. No, the Geminate attack, will it actually get him? The Naga Siren lives with 10 HP. Jesse Vosh on his way on out of here. Oa gets Shackle Shotted up. They've got another Impale coming through. The Crystal Maiden is actually quite low. Do they have Power Shot available? It's rank 2. Jesse Vosh hunting in the background. He does pick off Lakel's. They get the trade. Actually, this, you have to say that Mineski kind of outsmarting mith.trust in this fight, especially with the pickoff on Naga Siren late.
Yeah, Lakel's decided to walk back around. I don't think he actually had enough mana to do anything there, so I'm not sure what the plan was, and just ended up dying. That poor man's shield really paying for itself in that first getaway, but
Sure.
not quite for the second time around. So yeah, Mineski now leading pretty heavily into, well, leading all around the map. That death on Darkseer bot just cleaned up by the Sanity's Eclipse right at the very end. So things are looking pretty good for Jay. Mid lane is still mid lane. Abba is completely terrified. He has no idea where Joven is. He knows that he got the rune, I think.
Yeah.
Does he have his suspicions that it's an invis? I'm not actually sure where the rune was, if it was top or bot.
There's the stun anyway. Here comes Burrow Strike, rank 2. A little bit more damage will do it. He's got that Spike Carapace. Will this be enough to get out? He impales and he walks away. Abba, very nice reflexes, good coordination to get out of that gank, but he is forced off the lane. He'll have to go all the way back to Fountain. And Nyx Assassin, I mean, he's just not that strong of a mid-hero when you come down to it. He's only 19 for 3 to the 45 for 5 on the Dragon Knight. And meanwhile, Jay is just taking more and more control of this lane. Now that he's getting those Astral Imprisonments on a regular basis, in a bit of trouble. He Frostbites. He does get shackled to a tree somehow. That was a crazy little angle there. And Crystal Maiden down for the count. Meanwhile, Geo trading with TNK here. They don't have Sanity's Eclipse just yet, but one more hit will do it. Darkseer not managing to successfully vacuum the Sand King for the last hit, and that'll be a death. Jesse Vosh, meanwhile, trading with the entire team of mith.trust, already with a kill. One more Shukachi. No, they managed to pick him off. Lakel's actually finding last hit there. No, it's creeps, but they still get the AoE gold. So, kill on the board for mith.trust, but they are getting pressured across every single lane.
Yeah, and I mean, Abba TP's bot, he somehow breaks his own Vendetta there. I'm not actually quite sure how. He TP'd in, and the TP actually landed, but for some reason, yeah, just Vendetta popped, and he immediately removed it. So,
weird.
Yeah, things not looking great for that. I don't know if he was trying to bottle in Fade Time or something like that, but yeah. So mith.trust miss it on that first Vendetta gank, and Mineski, more kills for them. Things looking pretty good. Dragon Knight, you leave the lane for a second, your tower is already at 25% HP. So Mineski, the tri-core lineup can just keep sitting in their lanes, and it's still on. I think it's still on mith.trust to try and get some movement going, but
yeah, it's gotta
we'll
be.
see if they'll be able to.
I mean, so Lakel's, interestingly enough, has gone Soul Ring Naga Siren, and this is not something we traditionally see, but we have a fight developing. They're at least going to get the tier 1. Jesse Vosh chasing the whole team off, and there's that rank 3 Burrow Strike. Not quite long enough to actually stun Abba, but Mineski are happy with this. They pick up the tier 1 tower, essentially for nothing. TNK looking for a trade. They could TP somebody down here. They just seem to be content to ping for now. They haven't actually sent anyone. I don't know if they have TPs. OD actually has one, and his completed mechanism. And here comes Weaver as well. I think they might seek to transition to putting Weaver in this lane. I'm not sure. Jesse Vosh just going to try to fend off this tower push from TNK. The Swarm comes through. TNK will just surge on out, no problem. But Weaver will be able to get this push to stop. OD, he's actually rotating around. They can get an Astral Prison here if they want one. They want to wait for him to surge. There's the Astral Prison. He hasn't surged yet. He might still be able to make it out of here. Abba's here with a Vendetta. Comes through on Jesse Vosh. There's the Impale. He actually picks off Weaver already. And even if OD gets the trade, this is not actually tremendously favorable for mith.trust just yet. Here comes Geo to cover. Jay's exit if he needs it. There's the Epicenter. The last couple of hits, they get Abba. 2 for 1. Lose the Weaver. Pick up a Darkseer and a Nyx. And that is definitely a trade that Mineski are going to be happy taking. Turning into a little bit of pressure on this bottom tower. It does have almost full health, so I don't think they can bring it down all the way, although Joven is here to put a little bit of additional pressure on it with the Dragon Knights, so I'm not exactly sure. Lakel's Soul Ring, is this just for jungle farming?
I think it's for a little bit of jungle farming. I think it's just to be active if he can. I mean, mith.trust, they don't have time for Lakel's to sit back and, you know, go Midas Radiant or something like that. Mineski are threatening right now. They had an 8.5 minute, something like that, mech. Extremely difficult to deal with. Dragon Knight already bringing down their towers, and yeah, even the Darkseer, who I would say is probably one of the most consistent heroes in the entire game, is starting to look a little bit behind, just from a bit of ganking pressure from Mineski. So really nicely done from Jay. You know how hard he won that lane, but Darkseer, no signs of mech. It's a mech advantage for Mineski, and already taking 2 tier 1s. mith.trust have to find a fight eventually, whether or not that fight will come to tier 2 or whether that fight will, you know, be at the next tier 1, since Mineski, the next obvious target, is kind of this tier 1 top. But even then, I think the onus is still on mith.trust to end up doing something here.
I agree.
And we'll see what they, we'll see if they can. I mean, Jesse goes up. Yeah, they're certainly going to try, and Abba's Vendetta top, but it looks like another Vendetta that won't end up paying off.
R5 gets caught out. Just a couple more hits from OD or Dragon Knight will do the trick. Yeah, the line goes down. One thing that I thought mith.trust were doing fairly intelligently was giving this line a little bit of space. He was level 1 fairly late into the game, so they really wanted to get him that level 6 for the, you know, the rank 3 Earth Spike, rank 2 Hex, and the Finger of Death. So he's there now. He is level 6. He's actually 2 levels ahead of where Oa is on Crystal Maiden. I think that's fantastic, but unfortunately he takes a death. Now is really the time. I think mith.trust, as you said, are at kind of a delicate moment. They need to be generating kill pressure, especially because they've delayed any sort of farm on this Naga Siren to pick up the Soul Ring. They need to be picking up kills to ramp up that farm more quickly, because the OD is level 11, the Dragon Knight is level 9. Here comes the attempt. The Astral Prison is here. R5 stunned up already. Net gets thrown out on Jay, but the mith.trust, basically their entire team is here. Joven doesn't care. He throws out a Dragon Breath, already enough to kill Lion. There's the Burrow Strike on Lakel's. He's in a lot of trouble. One more hit from the Arcane Orb will do the trick there. Geo probably safe to walk on out of here if he wants to, as TNK continues to take the tremendous amount of pressure that the OD can bring to bear with a level advantage. And Abba, when you want kills, you don't want to be using your Vendetta to leave fights, but that's exactly the situation he finds himself in, retreating on out with the Vendetta after they take a 3 for 0 trade.
Yeah. Oh, and SD's in trouble as well. He's just about to die.
Oh, where was that?
Okay, so SD, I guess I'll draw it out. He made his way over into the side shop. The courier was flying in. It delivered the Force Staff at the last second to Jay. SD popped the Wind Run. He went down and around. Jay managed to imprison him over here. And then we also had Sand King Burrow Strike down once the imprison wore off. So yeah, clutch Force Staff delivery sets up a kill there.
Nice.
And yeah, one more at the
end.
end.
I didn't see that. I didn't see what you said. Yeah. That's pretty effective. Jesse Vosh, by the way, is just gonna skip maybe the boots completely. That's the thing you can do sometimes on Weaver, because of course he moves at max movement speed for so long. Here's the Crystal Nova on Lakel's and the Epicenter and the Frostbite. What a combo! Sand King and Crystal Maiden just completely taking that Naga Siren apart. She might have decent defense against physical attacks with a poor man's shield, but no recourse against Frostbite, causing you to take the full damage of Epicenter. And that'll be Lakel's with 3 deaths on the board now, and Mineski in complete control. Once again, I mean, it's an even series, but it hasn't been even games. Here comes Abba with the Vendetta. What an amazing Force Staff immediately after the Vendetta. The Impale doesn't land. TNK in a lot of trouble. There's the Sanity's Eclipse coming through from Jay. Already Darkseer on the ground. There's Abba and R5. The buyback from OD, because he did get brought down, I think, with Mana Burn there. Lakel's comes in, immediately gets stunned. There's the Crystal Nova. Naga Siren actually is interrupted by the Frostbite. She does throw out the net. It's on RTR. There's the Shackle Shot. They probably pick up the Sand King at least. What a Burrow Strike! They actually get 2. 4 on the ground. They do finally get the Sand King, but Jesse Vosh going to chase SD back towards this tier 3. And mith.trust, they're done. They don't want to fight this for another moment.
I mean, that was... So, often when you're on the back foot and all of your lanes have kind of gone badly, you have to say, okay, this is our tower to defend. And Myth.trust said that the top tower was that tower, right? They were like, okay, all 5 of us are here. If this fight goes badly, then we're probably done. And the fight went disastrously. I was going to say that the big indicator was going to be whether or not the Song of the Siren was used aggressively to set things up or whether it was used defensively to escape. It didn't end up mattering. Lekels died anyway, but yeah, after that fight was lost, Mineski were such a long way ahead. OD was just enormous. 4-staff and mech at 14 minutes into the game. Yeah, Myth just... They tried one last fight on bot, but it was really desperation tactics already, and just gonna tap out at 14. So yeah.
Basecamp, was that a draft loss, or was there execution that would have gotten Myth.trust the game?
I feel like Myth.trust giving away the OD and the Weaver really locked them into a situation that they didn't want to be in, because at that point you can't aggressively tri-lane because the 2 solo lanes are going to win really hard because it's Weaver and it's Weaver and OD if that ends up being the case. And yeah, I think Myth.trust they second picked or first picked the Nyx Assassin, didn't they, this time around?
They did.
And
second pick.
Yeah,
I mean, they had 2 picks in a row, so they took Darkseer and Nyx.
Yeah. So it sometimes puts you in a little bit of a weird spot. And Lekels, I mean, he plays Naga Siren for sure, but not one of his most comfortable heroes. And yeah, Myth. I think they just need to have a lineup that, on the whole, they're probably more comfortable with, because Lion, support Windrunner, heroes outside of their typical comfort zones and heroes that we don't often see against some of arguably the strongest heroes in the game right now. OD, Dragon Knight, and Weaver. Definitely. It was very difficult for Myth.
Yep. So Mineski, definitely defying expectations in some respect. They find themselves up 2-1 in a best-of-5 in the GEST July Grand Finals. I'm certainly excited to see which turns the series takes from here, and we'll go up into Game 4 in just a moment, folks. Don't go away.